Hi guys, how are you doing? I hope you're doing well. Thank you so much for tuning in. It's me again, your girl Kami. So today I want to give you an update of the working permit in Sweden, which have changed, or rather is going to be effective from the 1st of June. Now, before we go to the new working permit rules, let me go through what has been there before. I had jotted some notes which I got from the Swedish Migrationsverket.exe, that's the Swedish migration office, on their website. So, and I am covering for citizens who are non-EU countries, okay? So you must apply for a work permit to work in Sweden, and of course there are some few exemptions to countries like Australia, Canada, Hong Kong, Japan, New Zealand, and South Korea, aged 18 and 30. So they can also apply for a working holiday visa, and you will see the link there on the Swedish migration website. Now, the requirements, I'm going to check the requirements that has been there before. Before the new law now becomes effective. To qualify for a work permit, you must have received an official offer of employment. I think I've even covered this in my previous video. Maybe I will link it there. Then from a Swedish employer. Then there are a number of other work permit requirements, and like I said, you must have an offer of employment, then have your work, the offer must have been advertised in the EU/EEA for the at least 10 days. This is very, very important. At least 10 days. I remember there was a case I read last year, or 2 years ago, whereby a family that came to Sweden, and they have been working through their permit is a their residence permit is, they applied it through work permits, and they were denied. Why? Because their work, according to the Swedish migration, is that their work was not properly advertised. So make sure that the offer has been advertised in the EU or EEA for at least 10 days. If not, there are going to be errors, and you're not going to like what if the Swedish migration now realized in the future that the job or the offer was not properly advertised. It's gonna cause you problem, and it can make you get deported, or your permit not extended, and so many other complications. Then offers of employment that match those set by the Swedish collective agreements, or those that are customary within the occupation or the industry. Very, very important. Very, very important. And you must at least receive a salary of 13,000 Swedish crown before taxes. So any job that will guarantee you of a permit, you must have a salary of 13,000 before taxes, okay? And of course, you must have a valid passport from your country. So generally, of course, you have to apply before you leave your country. So receive offer of employment, and like I said, salary of 13,000, match the Swedish collective agreements, and what else? Yeah, that is it. So all those things, then you compile and submit your application either online or submit it to your closest Swedish embassy, but I always like to do things online. Then your application must include a form, pages of your passport, your offer of employment, like I said, and the statement from the trade union, the application fee, of course, you have to pay. And then from there, the Swedish migration now considers your application and informs you of its decision. So now, that is it. I don't want to take it so long, extending, but if you want to keep working, then if you want to extend the work permit, then you apply before your current permit expires. That is after the application. Now, what about the new rules? What is the new rule? What has changed? So you guys, I'm checking all this from the Swedish migration. So now let's us go to the new laws. So you guys, from the Swedish migration, you can check this. I'm gonna give you all the links here. New rules from 1st of June for those applying for work permit. The Swedish Riksdag has decided on several rule changes to strengthen the condition for people with work permits. The new rules will come into effect 1st June 2020 and will affect almost everyone who applies for a work permit. The new rules include, among other things, if you are applying for a work permit, you will need to present an employment contract before you can receive a decision. The first one was offer of employment, but this one say you must have received an employment contract before you can receive a decision. So before the Swedish migration or the embassy will make your decision, they will need a contract. And it's very good for the worker, I believe, because you can have an offer of employment, but if you don't have a contract, under which basis are you working for? You understand? So if you have a contract, maybe 2 years contract, if your employer breaches the contract, there are compensation and there are consequences. So this now, I think, is very good for the employee, but the employer is not good for him because he's binded by this contract. And now it makes it difficult for companies to want to give people work permits, job that will help them stay in Sweden. So that's another debate. If you have or applying from a work permit, you must show that you can support accompanying family members the first time they apply for residence permits as a co-applicant. Okay, so when the contract is there, it says how much you're going to get, blah 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 blah, and from there they will be able to see if you can be able to support your family. And of course, you will not get paid immediately, as you know how it works. So you must show that you can support your family. So maybe they must ask for your bank statement or any other thing that can show that you can support your family. It will be possible to apply for an extended work permit several times. That's very good. In this way, you can stay in Sweden for more than 4 years, even if you do not meet the requirements for obtaining a permanent residence permit. That's very good. Within 4 years, you can make more other application, just in case you lose your job or you're laid off or your company goes bankrupt or something happens. You can apply for a visa if you need to travel abroad on a business trip while waiting for a decision on an extended work permit. A new permit is introduced for people who are highly educated who want to come to Sweden to apply for work. So the new rules apply to both new application and to people who are already waiting for a decision. This means that if you have already submitted an application for a work permit, you may in some cases need to supplement your application by submitting a copy of your employment contract. The Swedish Migration Agency will contact you or your employer if we need more information about the employment in order to make a decision. You see? So you guys, the Swedish Riksdag has decided that an employment contract should be required instead of an offer of employment by the person applying for a work permit, as this places higher demands on the employer. You see, like I said, An employment contract states what salary and other conditions an employer and the employee have agreed on. The employment contract may include an agreement that the contract applies if the employee receives a work permit. Okay. The new rules for work permit also include that in some cases the employer must notify the Swedish Migration Agency if the terms of employment change after the decision on a work permit. The Swedish Migration Agency will also have greater possibility to check that the employer complies with the terms of the employment contract. Not complying with the agreement or not notifying the Swedish Migration Agency of changes can have negative consequences for the employer. Detailed information on these changes will be published here on the Swedish Migration website. You see? So you guys, but they now say that, note that not everyone will need an employment contract, and they said the requirement to present an employment contract when applying for a work permit will apply to most workers, but some exemption exist. The following are not affected by the changes but should continue to present the same documents as before. EU blue card. So if you have an EU blue card, you don't need this. ICT permits, researchers, professional athletes, seasonal workers, au pairs, trainees, volunteers under the European Solidarity Corps, summer job for young people, so-called working holiday visa. That is why I always tell people, try to come as an au pair. Au pair is the easiest visa ever. It doesn't need anything, no contract, nothing. So you guys, I hope this video will help you to know the new rules and how it's gonna affect you, because anything that affects your employer affects you, the employee. So the employers are now under a very tight place right now because they are being checked now. So if you have a contract, that means the employee is settled and no problems. Anyway guys, yeah, that is it for now. Thank you so much for tuning in. I see you in my next video. Bye.